we got a report from our state demographer, okay? And he took all of the changes in Texas. He took the population. There's 4 major populations: the Anglo, African American, the Latino, and other. Other is mostly Asian in our case. He overlaid on that the education level, who's going to school, who's not going to school. And then he overlaid on that the kinds of jobs that Texas is attracting. Okay? Now, how many of you are parents? This is something, I've always been passionate about education, but something happened to me nearly 2 years ago that made me really passionate. I have a little boy who's about to be 2 years old. Okay? And when I read this report, the state demographer told us that by the year 2025, if everything stayed the same and Texas kept doing what it's doing now, Texas would have the economy of a third world country. Now, this is a report to the legislature telling us that by 2025, Texas will have the economy of a third world country. As a native Texan, when I think of third world economies, I don't think of Texas. And what really shocked me about that is my little girl, my little boy, my little 2-year-old that I was talking about, what year does he turn 21? 2025. So this report told me as a parent that by the time my kid turns 21, if we don't do anything, he doesn't have much of a future. Now you've heard some of the statistics. Let me give you some national statistics that are from the Census Bureau, and these are actually from the last census. The work on the most recent census is still getting done. But you take 100 kindergarten kids, okay? You have 100 Latino kindergarten kids, okay? 56 of them will drop out before they finish high school. Now, that leaves 44 that graduate. All right? Out of those 44, 20 are going to end their education with that high school diploma. All right? So 56 dropped out, 44 graduated, 20 stopped. That leaves you with 24. Of the 24, 13 go to a community college. Out of those 13, 1 will finish and transfer to a 4-year institution. 11 go to a 4-year institution. Only 8 make it to the 3rd year. Only 6 of the 100 kids actually graduate with a college degree. And of those 100, 2 of them get a graduate or a professional degree. You started off with 100 kids, and you end up with 2 of the 100 getting a graduate degree. Now, the census also tells us some really interesting stuff about economics, because the census tells us that if you get a high school diploma, on average, your income is going to be about $34,000 a year. You can earn about that on average. But if you get a graduate degree, a professional degree, the census says you have the potential to earn about $127,000 a year on average. Okay? There's nearly $100,000 a year difference between the guy who gets the high school diploma and the guy who gets the graduate. But we only got 2 guys getting the graduate. So what's happening in terms of the economics is, where do we live? What are we subjected to? What is it that we're essentially struggling with? Now, money is definitely a factor. Congress has done a lot of stuff. They've cut the financial aid programs. They've cut the Pell Grants. There's about 100,000 kids just in Texas over the past years that have seen their financial aid reduced. In the meantime, legislatures aren't funding colleges and universities very well, so colleges and universities are having to find their own ways to raise money. And what they do is they raise tuition, or they raise fees, or they raise something, so it gets harder and harder to go. The cost gets higher, the amount of aid that's available gets lower, and what happens? People have a harder time getting it.